Broadcasting House Plymouth, the home of BBC South West, broadcasting to the 2 million people living between the Scillies and the borders of Dorset and Devon.
That evidently and beyond all doubt we may love thee, through Jesus Christ thy Son, our Lord and brother.
The speaker in prayer for the day this morning was the Reverend Richard Harris, who's the vicar of All Saints Church, Fulham.
The time's 7:15, and you're tuned to Morning South West from Plymouth, introduced by Frank Wintle.
Good morning and welcome to the programme. The date's the 4th of March. It's a mild morning here in Plymouth and the weather bodes well for a fine spring day. And we begin as usual with the news headlines.
The BBC has been at Plymouth for over 50 years. At station 5PY, it was one of the pioneer radio stations. Nowadays, from Monday to Friday, BBC transmits on VHF and medium wave its programme of news and views, Morning South West. It's in the early hours of the morning that the producer, with his compere and studio manager, begin the day's work at Broadcasting House.
Well, Mr. Bert Cowles of Helston, a Cornish bard who is visiting Australia, sends news from down under. He tells us that the Cornish Association of Sydney will be observing St. Piran's Day by getting together and hoisting the Cornish flag from a clear, cloudless blue sky with temperatures soaring towards 100 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. And that's cause for celebration, so let's have the Cornish national anthem.
North Hessery Tor, the first television and VHF mast in the transmitter network that covers the whole southwest region. 700 feet of steel towers over 1,700 of granite on the very roof of Dartmoor. Beyond North Hessery Tor stretch 5 main television transmitter stations from Redruth in the west to Stockland Hill on the borders of Devon and Somerset. From these, there spreads a network of 24 relay stations serving individual communities. The engineers who man Hessery face the most ferocious climate in the south. Even routine maintenance is fraught with difficulty in this grim setting. The importance of North Hessery Tor is that it serves as a base for the engineers who monitor the signals coming from all the other transmitters in Devon and Cornwall. When there's a breakdown, an alarm sounds and an engineer sends a message to the faulty transmitter by punch card. The transmitter talks back to him by telephone in a special code identifying the source of the trouble. If there's a fault, the transmitter itself automatically takes emergency action. But if the breakdown is serious, then it becomes a race against the clock for the maintenance team. A flying squad of transmitter engineers has to be ready to rush to any site at a moment's notice. The high standards of engineering mean that faults aren't frequent, and then they're rarely apparent to the home audience.
Let's start with what? We've got Jersey Author. This is a book to be published later this month by a well-known author, a chap called Robinson, who's written a couple of bestsellers. He's been there and done some research about a wartime setting in Jersey, and he's reopening some of the questions which troubled people in Jersey and on the mainland about the extent of their cooperation with the Germans during the war when they were occupied. The book is about an American airman who was shot down over Jersey. So it sounds quite a good story, particularly as it seems that in Jersey the booksellers are refusing to handle it.
Oh, that's nice. Well, we ought to get some reaction from Jersey and from the booksellers over there as to why.
Yeah. We've got,
I mean, it's fiction, but it's faction, really.
Spotlight Southwest is the regional television programme. Its job is to present a news and current affairs magazine nightly. Every weekday morning, the Spotlight journalists meet the news editor. Reporters have already phoned in likely stories. The day's national news is scanned for events of regional importance. Now, jobs must be assigned.
What else are we looking at? Butter Mountain, Jim. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, Silkin's flown to Brussels today to look again at the Butter Mountain, which is a continual source of worry here in this dairy-producing area. I mean, it's a good story for the Southwest, but it's such an involved
Yeah, you've got to bring it right down to farming terms down here. I mean, what does it mean? Does it mean the farmers are going to go out of business in the end? Or what?
Well, I mean, the problem is that, you know, they've got to try and get the prices on a par with, say, Germany. Production costs in Germany are far higher than they are in Devon, and so that whatever price Germans dictate is the price that Devon people, you know, get.
The Southwest region is very, very large. The reporter often finds that his first difficulty is in trying to meet up with his camera crew. BBC Southwest has the duty to serve the regional audience and give a proper mouthpiece to regional views. So if you're interested in a subject like butter prices, our intrepid reporter is going to have to go a long way from his warm, dry office.
We haven't put our Wellingtons on, you know? Yeah. A bit unusual for us.
Anything to wipe that with? Yeah, sure. Well, where are we going to have him then?
Well, we could go in the field, but it's a bit mucky, isn't it, really?
No, let's have him leaning over a gate, shall we?
Well, all right. It's a bit predictable,
Got one
isn't
handy? Well, we usually do it.
All right then. Over the gate here, eh, maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of cows there. Let's do it. Yes.
Nice animal.
That's great. Yeah, it's natural.
Oh, let's get rid of this thing because it's too heavy.
The Southwest region includes the offshore islands, Lundy, the Scillies, and, most populous of all, the Channel Islands. So, if stories break there, crews have to be flown out and back again. The main BBC transmitter for the Channel Islands is on Jersey at Les Platons, and, just as on the mainland, a transmitter network brings a full radio and colour television service to all the islands. For reasons of economy, a news team often tries to film stories on more than one island each trip. For the story of the Guernsey booksellers, the reporter Hugh Scully has decided to begin with a scripted introduction filmed in the setting of the harbour, St. Peter Port.
And the book.
A regional news crew travels light. Usually there are no more than 3 members, the journalist, the cameraman and a sound recordist.
Right, this is Channel Island story, roll 3, slate 2. And the book, Joe. Yeah. Thanks very much. OK.
OK then, Hugh, off you go.
This book, Kramer's War, is set in Germany during the Sorry, I got... Knew I get that wrong.
Hugh. I'll remind you we're getting a bit low on film.
This book, Kramer's War, is set in the Channel Islands during the German occupation, but you're unlikely to be able to buy a copy of it in any Channel Island bookshop. It's been the subject of a bit of controversy here. There was a front-page story in the Jersey Evening Post, followed up by dozens of column inches of letters to the editor. The booksellers who've refused to handle the novel deny, however, that that's their reason for not stocking it. They claim it's a purely commercial consideration. They say the book's not particularly well written, they don't think it'll sell, therefore they won't stock it.
Well, the usual problem, we haven't got a major story happening yet, so we'll start off with our old friend, the top story yet to happen. We'll see what the afternoon brings us. A news bulletin, which tonight includes a couple of films we've got. One about the Torquay Hotel, which is being offered to the County Council. That's some Cliff film, and that'll be with us about 14:45.
The afternoon meeting is the latest time at which the journalists must begin to involve the programme staff, the presenters and the studio engineers in their plans. From now on, the success of the programme depends upon the closest teamwork.
And at this stage, we'll say the duration for the news, about 4 minutes, but we'll see how the afternoon goes. I'm a bit undecided about the next story, which is the...
Camera movements have to be plotted by the studio director. His assistant must carefully estimate the timings of items.
Chris, what do you think about the strength of that? Is it... should we put it a bit higher up in the programme?
Well, the story's going to break on the island tomorrow, so, you know, today's the...
The evening's producer decides in which order the different items should come, who should present them in the studio, and who write the final scripts. He has to plan 25 minutes of live broadcast, whilst still not having seen much of the film, expecting that stories may change during the afternoon, and remembering that studio guests may still have to confirm their ability to appear.
We've got some neg film here, Mike.
And of course, the engineers have their problems too.
Yeah.
30 seconds or so is plenty to do a switch on the TK. I don't see any real problems at all in that.
How's VT
As well as could be expected.
Hello, it's BBC here. Could I have the weather forecast, please? Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, please, Ron.
Yes. Nationwide. Oh, hello, Gordon. For handicapped animals. Well, would you believe a three-legged Alsatian?
Oh, yeah, it'll definitely be on, but we just haven't got a final date yet.
Activity in the newsroom becomes frantic as transmission time nears. Late scripts have to be written and typed.
Games in the May elections for Devon County Council. They'll be fighting all but 2 of the 98 seats, Labour between 80 and 85 and the Liberals at least 50.
As the night's film is rushed back, it arrives at the processing laboratory. News crews shoot their stories on reversal film, much the same kind as is used for home colour slides, so there's no problem of negatives or making prints. Within half an hour, the film will be developed and on its way to the next stage in its journey, the cutting room of the film editor.
You got the big one this time, Mike. It's the button mounting, you know? It's our attempt to try and explain it. That's a farmer. And,
It's here that words and pictures are cut together to make a finished story.
Oh, no! Same old problem, usual problem.
Can you give me a date, love, for the last time we used Jersey occupation film? Wartime occupation film. What's that? 8th of 10th, 74. Thanks, love. Ta.
Jenny,
If a story involves background information, the journalists must search the film library for their material. Over the years, the station has collected thousands of cans of film, all of which must be carefully stored and catalogued for use at a moment's notice. There are fewer than 100 employees at Broadcasting House. Many of these are the real backroom boys, maintenance engineers, programme staff, scene hands, the people who are rarely noticed even by visitors to the studios and who mostly wouldn't want the limelight even if it was offered. It's become a cliché to say that without them no programme would be possible. Cliché or not, it's a statement of fact.
And that rain looks as though it will hang on in the south for quite a time tomorrow. In fact, in some of the southernmost counties, it might not clear up during the day. It'll stay fairly cloudy and a little rain and drizzle here and there.
Like all the 8 regional magazine programmes, Spotlight opts out from the first part of the nationwide programme. This means that the studio director must cut in and out of a London programme with split-second timing.
It'll stay dry in many places. In the east, temperatures
2,
not quite as high as
1,
today, but still on the
0.
warm side.
Opt out and cue Donald.
This is BBC One South West. Now Spotlight with Nationwide.
Opt in. 3 next.
15 seconds.
Coming to 3.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
out and
0.
Good evening. In Spotlight tonight, child cruelty. Magistrates are told they need more training
Coming
to
back to
cope with
network.
such cases.
10,
The penalties of
9,
illegal fishing
8,
dramatically reduced
7,
in an appeal court
6,
today.
5,
and Bernard Leach,
4,
the potter.
3,
We look back with him
2,
over his distinguished
1,
career.
Opt in.
And at 6:15,
Coming back
the
to 3
pride of
next.
the toolmakers. Must it lead to the fall of British Leyland? We follow the emergency debate as it proceeds in the House of Commons. We also analyse the
15
effect on the
seconds.
rest of us and the threat
Stand
that
by
a million
Telecine.
more people could be out of work if
10,
the final collapse
9,
comes. That's the Carmen's crisis
7,
tonight, nationwide.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Opt out and cue.
Well, first tonight, the Plymouth fire, and police in the city have begun a search for an arsonist after the fire earlier today in which a man died.
Franti Cakey.
Detective Chief Superintendent Provan
5,
Sharp, head of Devon
4,
CID,
3,
says he's
2,
certain the fire
1,
was started deliberately
film.
by an intruder.
On film.
Q.
The fire took over an hour to bring under control. Outside the
Number 1.
building, a yacht
10
valued at
seconds.
£14,000 was completely
8,
destroyed
7,
and 3 others slightly
6,
damaged.
5,
Police have set up a special
4,
incident room
3,
for the investigation.
2, 1,
And
0.
cut.
The director and his assistant have to cue in the items of film and videotape recording, cue the presenters and guests, direct the 3 studio cameramen for each shot, and cut in slides and still photographs.
Tiny uninhabited Scottish island of Stafford. Mrs. Mary Brabeck of Rame Cross will publicise...
A floor manager conveys instructions to the performers by sign language. Over 20 people work together with the accuracy of a computer to achieve a smooth-running programme.
An appeal court today reduced the fines on 2 Danish trawler skippers who'd been caught fishing inside Britain's 12-mile limit. Last week, magistrates had ordered them to pay a total of £22,000 in fines. But today, on appeal, that was reduced to just £2,500 each. Here's Keith Beckler.
Cue and cut.
The 2 Danish boats were fishing 18 miles from the Devon coast, but they were close to the Eddystone Rock, and that is officially an offshore island with a 12-mile limit of its own. The judge said it was something of a special case, and the skippers, who were in the English Channel for the first time, said they hadn't realised.
For the Spotlight team, the working day is over at 6:30. The bar of the BBC Club is the obvious place to get together to unwind and go over the day's happenings over a pint.
It is. Look, I went all the way out there to see that man and his dog, and you haven't given my expenses.
What's something I'll buy you, Ed?
I don't believe it. It's possible. You're making it all up. No, is it you?
He doesn't make things up, does it? Yes, quite true.
Who is Kenny?
But for some, the television day is only half done. As well as the nightly edition of Spotlight, Plymouth also produces 2 half-hour feature programmes a week under the general series title of Peninsula. This evening, it's Jazz from an Exmouth pub. The Peninsula producer and director are recording a concert with an outside broadcast unit, a complete TV station on wheels, whose base is BBC Bristol.
That's an 8-bar intro. An 8-bar intro. And then, of course,
The signals from the outside broadcast vans are being transmitted to Manchester to be recorded on videotape. The recording will then come back to Bristol to be edited. It's an example of how Plymouth can take advantage of the BBC's huge national resources.
Cut that chorus, please.
Yeah. Intro to on-time movie, yeah?
Yeah. And now? Something at the end of the cinema.
Yeah, all right.
Right, stand by then, and cue 'em. 2 and
5, 4, 3,
mix to 2 and zoom.
1. Run roller.
And we're coming to 3
Stand by roller.
and mix. And inlay.
Peninsula is still recording in Exmouth, while in Plymouth, Joe Pengelly presents the BBC One programmes to the region.
This is BBC One South West. Now the 9 o'clock news with Angela Rippon.
This is a lonely job. Joe must wait alone in his small studio with only a camera for company until the network closes down.
Yes, I've done the Holsworthy.
Yeah.
It needs a bit of tidying up.
But as Joe waits for the television day to come to an end, work is going at full stretch in the morning South West studio well into the night.
Okay, right.
The producer and his team are pulling together the programme, choosing music, recording interviews, telephoning contacts.
Take care, it's fine. Yeah.
Reporters arrive to edit the tapes of items recorded by them that day.
Discover the history of your church.
The radio studio will be a hive of activity until the producer is satisfied that everything will be well for tomorrow. Only then will the team snatch a few hours' sleep until, before dawn, another day of broadcasting begins in Plymouth.
Yeah, 120, page 122 and the total 328.
Yes, because it's not exactly going to be the liveliest programme tomorrow. Still.
Now finally the weather. The day will be mostly cloudy with light rain or drizzle at times and fog on high ground. Winds will be fresh or strong southwesterly and temperatures will reach 11 centigrade. And that's the news and weather for the southwest. More about all that's been happening in the southwest in our radio programme tomorrow morning, going on the air at 6:45. Well, that's all from us for today, except of course to give you the time. And it's just coming up to, and this is the difficult part, just coming up to 6.5 minutes to midnight. So it's a very good night from me and all of us left here at BBC Plymouth. Good night.